Thank you. Chief, we got a handheld mic for Marianne. Thank
Like you about to go out. Oh, you were. Oh, I didn't know that.
Hey, I'm here, Brian. Brian, good to meet you.
It's like I know some people who work trains. Everybody. I know it. Here I see him.
Oh, did it? Okay. Good to see you. Brian, good to see
Oh, you're working here? You got a job? I saw you here then. Oh.
Well, I
I know, that's why I don't want to. I was just full time. That was my last job. I like that. I like my first
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. I thought we should lower this so you guys can see the pulpit. So, right here, our beautiful friend is back. This brand new looking piano, yes, this brand new looking piano is 106 years old, a 1913 Steinway A. And when we left the last building, the UUCA Endowment Fund agreed to do a full rebuild on this piano. An old piano, like an old violin, will always sound better than a brand new piano, and it certainly does. It's very, very exciting. After the service, if you want to come by for about 10 minutes, I will take you on a little walk through all the changes that were made to the piano. The body and the metal on the inside are really the only things that still remain. Everything else is brand new. It's very, very exciting. We get to play with it all day. So first, we're going to sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are, which is the next slide. Thank you, Mike. So we're going to sing it all the way through together. Then we're going to sing it as a round. So this section over here, along with the sopranos and basses, will sing the part one. This section over here will sing part two with the altos and tenors. Please rise in body or in spirit. Text by Rumi, this song. All together. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of... Last line again. Come yet again, come. Last line, everybody. Come yet again, come. And some harmonies in there too. So glad you are here. It is the best place to be in Atlanta, Georgia on a Sunday morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, a beloved community that changes lives. I'm Jackie Spearman, and I'm so glad you are here this morning. Wherever you are from, whomever you love, you are welcome here. If this is your first time, or if you've not yet had a chance, please stop by our Welcome Center in the Social Hall after the service to allow us to get to know you a little better. You can sign up to receive information about services and programs being presented over the next several weeks. If you'd like to learn more about UUCA and its programs, please join the always fascinating Inquirers series. They will meet after service today from 12:30 to 1:30 in room 1 off the social hall. This week, the Inquirers will be exploring the topic UU History, Principles, and Sources. Aside from the Inquirers, there will be no other adult religious education programming offered today. Instead, all are invited to join the stewardship team in the social hall for a special extended social hour with cake after the worship service. Looking forward, do make plans to join Dr. Jason Delaney for his ever-popular series, Worthy Beyond Worth. Starting next Sunday, October 6th, Dr. Delaney will lead 5 successive sessions aimed at improving the way we think, talk about, and work with money in our communities and our lives. We hope you'll join us for Dr. Delaney's successful and transformative series. Office volunteers are the foundation of UUCA operations. Ever wonder who prints those order of services, maintains important records, answers the phone when you want to know what we're serving for Wonderful Wednesday? All of UUCA's programs depend on the amazing dedication of our volunteers. We are currently seeking regular volunteers throughout the week. Interested in being of service? Please email nicole.presley@uua.org. UUCA, thank you. Yeah, it won't, UUA, you don't want to go to Boston. And now, please be sure to take this moment to put your cell phone in its most reverent position. Thank you. Once again, we're glad you're here on this wonderful morning.
Also wanted to announce that this evening, Sunday evening at 7 p.m., we will hold Rosh Hashanah High Holy Day services. Don will be both cantor and preacher in this service this evening. So please come on back right here for Rosh Hashanah tonight at 7. I knew this congregation was special when I began to be introduced to some of your leaders, many of whom are here right next to you. Or maybe it is you. When I met Marianne Oakley, I immediately realized I was in the presence of someone who was capable, caring, and who could be a true partner in ministry with me. Just so you know, this does not happen every day in every congregation. I recently asked a ministerial colleague how things were going in her chaplaincy residency. Her response? Awkward. For many ministers, sitting with people in their grief and in their pain is really awkward. It is a high-level pastoral skill. In her 12 years as lay minister and in her 7 years serving as lead lay minister, Marianne offered something that professional ministers struggle to achieve and to find. She offered authentic pastoral presence free of awkwardness. I have watched Marianne sit with someone in their pain, and she asks the right questions that get them to open up and share their fears, their anxieties, their hopes. It is a wonder to behold Marianne at work as a lay minister. And I have watched Marianne lead our lay ministry program with her signature no-nonsense manner, taking our program to new heights of organization and structure and new depths of meaning. Marianne's leadership and her quality of presence will continue to reverberate in UUCA's lay ministry program for many, many years to come. And now, the lay ministers, if you are out there and you would like to join us around this chalice, please come forward. From all sides of the room, come on up. Because the lay ministers would like to present you, Marianne, with a special gift as our offering to you. Barbara's going to grab it. As a way to honor all you have given to this lay ministry program and to this congregation that loves you so much in your role as lead lay minister. Will you please present the gift, and will you, congregation, please join me in thanking Marianne Oakley for her incredible service to UUCA.
Thank you. I love you all.
Oh. Now I've invited Mary Ann to lead us in our chalice lighting words this morning as our lay ministers light the chalice.
May the light of
This flame illuminate our tradition of seeking.
invite all who yearn for acceptance and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
The light of our chalice flame also represents the warmth of community. So won't you please turn to your neighbor, especially if someone who you don't yet know, and introduce yourself. Let them know you are glad they are here. Welcome them into this space.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, hi. Good morning. I'm Heather.
I'm Jude.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
When I came in, there weren't any outside.
A second to come back.
Join us in singing the praises of Zion, the praises of Zion. Oh, fathers, don't you feel determined to meet within the walls of Zion? We'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout, the walls of Zion. Come, fathers and mothers, come, sisters and brothers, come join us in singing the praises of Zion. Come, fathers and mothers, come, sisters and brothers, come, sisters and brothers. Oh, fathers, don't you feel determined to meet within the walls of Zion? We'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout, we'll shout.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Complete our worship series, Liberating Our Dreams, by addressing spiritual restlessness, holy unrest. What keeps you up at night? Not knowing how events will unfold, wanting to be at the end of the journey of unknowing, eager to be free from this in-between tension. How do we get comfortable with so much mystery?
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Our reading this morning is one that I found at this place I used to hang out a lot in the Brooklyn Museum. It's the exhibit Judy Chicago's The Dinner Party. The Dinner Party is an iconic work of art pulling from generations of feminist thought and theology. So here we have this dinner table, triangular, each place setting, each plate representing a different woman throughout history, mystic, theologian, activist, thinker. And as you enter the exhibit of The Dinner Party, you meet this poem, which is untitled. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listen for the voice within.
Let us put hands upon hearts, feel the warm connection there. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will heal the world. At this time, we share the joys and the sorrows of this congregation. Please keep Dottie Kenny in your thoughts. Dottie is scheduled for heart valve replacement on Tuesday, October 1st. Dottie is expected to be moved to a rehab facility after this major surgery. She welcomes your cards and your loving thoughts. Please keep Carol Jordan and her family in your hearts following the death of Carol's father, Dr. Clyde Watson, at age 92 in Charlottesville, Virginia. He established and led the chaplaincy department at the University of Virginia Hospital for 31 years as an Episcopalian and later Unitarian minister, and was on the founding board of the area's first hospice in 1980, where he returned to volunteer in his retirement. He will be missed by many. We keep Carol and her family in our hearts this morning. At this time, I invite you to say out loud the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning. Bring them into this holy space, this holy moment now. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, to remember that all beings are inextricably and mysteriously connected, and to feel that connection. Now we still our bodies, we still our minds. We take in a big breath. We exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear harmonious purpose, let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
I want to start by talking about transubstantiation. In Catholic theology, transubstantiation is when the bread and wine of communion become, through divine intervention, literally the body and blood of Christ. Growing up, this sounded luridly bonkers to me. First, kids I went to school with got to drink alcohol at church. And not only that, but they also got to drink blood. When you're 12, it's hard to wrap your head around that. Now that I'm older, I reflect on it differently, and I still find it deeply appealing. Not the blood, alcohol thing, but that there's this moment, a single moment, where the mundane is made divine. And it's a small thing, and it becomes part of you. You literally connect with divinity, and it happens again and again and again. A recurring reminder that contact with divinity is a regular part of life. I'm supposed to talk about the pledge campaign. Please pledge. Do it as soon as you can. Decide on an amount this afternoon, then increase that by 10%. Then don't think about it, just submit it. It'll make other people's lives easier. It's the polite and the kind thing to do. Dogs will sense it, and they will think of you as a good person. And they will wag their tails, and you will know that it was because you pledged. Honestly, though, when you do pledge, and I know you will, I invite you to join me in doing so as a spiritual act, as a moral stand. Because for me, pledging annually is the most significant, profound, and divinely inspired act of my religious life. I am speaking these words in an era of profound moral crisis in our society, and I am honestly not sure if it is possible for us to be redeemed within my lifetime, maybe ever. Matthew chapter 6, verse 24 reads, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." In our society in 2019, it has become commonplace to believe that wealth and power are self-legitimizing. Might makes right. When addressing the issue of public virtue, of qualities of character, I have had multiple people tell me that someone must be smart, must be good, must be an effective leader, must be a decent human being, must be a contributing member of society, must be a good father, must be better than the rest of us. From what single attribute do all of these imperatives flow? From wealth. If someone has accumulated material wealth, the argument goes, then ipso facto, they must be good people. This is not true. Wealth and power are forces of spiritual ruin. Money is important. We have needs. Our inherent worth carries with it a duty to care for ourselves. But where is the line? When does the noble, aspirational voice inside telling us to fight for a material experience worthy of us turn into the careful, quiet voice of virtuous prudence, encouraging us to be conscientious, and then transform into a voice of fear and anxiety, reminding us that our wealth is our worth, and to hoard is the way to fill that unfillable void? This mistake is a grievous one. I knew a good man. My grandfather was a good man, and not a rich one. And his example has helped inoculate me against the incessant need for more. But that's a story for another day. Another day this season, because we are beginning our annual pledge campaign. During this season, we're going to be thinking and talking, focusing and reflecting, sharing, and breaking bread together over the myth of scarcity, the truth of abundance, the work of our congregation, and the faith that it requires to sustain that work. I have never been more excited to pledge. The RE program here has been transformed, and we have a new full-time director of religious exploration, Fenric Broyard. We are working to hire a full-time social justice and membership coordinator. We are building connections to become a hub in the Atlanta interfaith community. We are strengthening our leadership development within our congregation. We are making plans to begin a prison ministry, to serve people struggling with food insecurity, and to partner with organizations to reunite immigrant families. We are saying yes to abundance, to building, to growing, to sharing, together. There will be house parties. Be on the lookout for more announcements. We will be getting together to share stories of our past and our present, to share dreams of our future, of what our journey to a society more democratic, more loving, more abundant looks like. Please join us at one of them, even and especially if you're new. They're a great place to build some deeper connections. There will be testimonials. Some of us will share our stories about what this place means, and others of us, not naming names, will sit and listen and cry a lot. There will be an adult RE class. Starting next week, I am facilitating a 5-session class called Worthy Beyond Worth, where we will look at the messages that society, our family, and we ourselves have told us about money, anxiety, and shame. And we will work on intentionally constructing an attitude, an approach to money that is consistent with our UU principles. There will be abundance. Today, we will have an extended social hour after the second service. There will be cake. Join us. Break out of scarcity with a luxurious and languorous end to your morning. We want pledge season to be as meaningful as it can be, a chance to reflect on the way we can rise above the pressure that society places on us, where we can link the mundane with the divine to connect with a future that is worthy of us, that will outlast us, a future that will transform the lives of our children and our children's children, that will transform the lives of strangers who might someday become friends, that will transform our lives as we live them out day after day after day. That's what pledge season can be. Transubstantiation, the gift of everyday divinity. When I sit down with my pledge card, I get to decide, what will I turn my work into? Is my work the work of building up walls, moats, parapets, defenses against oncoming catastrophe? Is it the work of feeding my anxiety, of echoing, amplifying, and propagating the voice in my head that whispers seductively, there's probably not enough. You should worry. Keep some more for yourself. It's fine. The world will figure it out. You're not that important anyway. Better safe than sorry. There's nothing wrong with being responsible. Just shave a little off in case. No one's going to know. It's not a big deal. Am I going to feed that voice? Or can I say yes to my inherent worth? Can I engage in the faith that can liberate us not only from material deprivation, but can also construct a society where all are free? Can I remember that before my grandfather went to work every day, he prayed? Can I reject mammon and serve love? It's hard. Every year, it is the most important spiritual act I engage in. And every year, I do my best to stave off the affliction of mistaking wealth for virtue, of mistaking material power for moral force. I give to this place because this place is where the work that is actually good happens. I give because I want my work that I do out there every day to also be made good. I want to make the mundane divine, to render every form I sign and every quiz I grade an act of holiness. I invite you to abide each day in the holiness of your work as well, and to join me in supporting this community. The morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
When I started down the street last Sunday, feeling not alone. beat. The rhythm of life is a powerful beat. Puts a tingle in your fingers and a tingle in your feet. Rhythm on the inside, rhythm on the street, and the rhythm of life is a powerful beat. Go, 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 go. Tell them everything you know. To feel the rhythm of life, to feel the powerful beat, to feel the tingle in your fingers, to feel the tingle in your life, life, life. You got the rhythm, 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 rhythm of life.
Spirit of life, God of many names, we are awash in blessing. Bless Travis and Don and all the giddy excitement of kids in a candy store with this piano. Bless the ushers that came through today in the mess, chaos, and confusion of the 5th Sunday of the month. Bless the choir and Don who just refused to sing easy pieces on Sunday morning and always want to be challenged to new heights of skill and talent. Bless the endowment fund and their gift of refurbishing this piano. Bless Marianne and your service. Bless Jackie and your passion. Bless Jason and your talent, passion, and acts of service. And bless all of you, your passion that you bring here. Something's just telling me that I want to say right now that if you're feeling terrorized by the world out there, that you belong here. This is a place where all of you is welcome. All of your passion, all of your love, all of your struggle. Blessings upon you and your passion that is represented in this gift. Many blessings on this gift. May it go far and wide to spread love and compassion to a world that desperately needs it. Blessings on this offering.
And now, please join me in the dedication of the offering, which is found on the screen or in your order of service. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
If you ask one of the children in this congregation what it's like to grow up Unitarian Universalist, they will probably tell you it can be a religiously confusing experience to grow up UU. I remember in my 5th grade elementary school classroom, we were studying world religions, and I chose to study Unitarian Universalism, both for evangelist purposes but also in an attempt to really understand what was happening in my Sunday school, in our theology. And on the final day of our world religions unit, we had a party, and people were invited to bring foods that were used in the religion they had studied. You know where this is going. We invited our families to the lunch, and it was a big deal. And the spread was a cornucopia of different ethnic foods. We had matzah and charoset. We had hot cross buns, falafel and tabbouleh, lamb pockets, baba ganoush, African peanut stew, dumplings, and mooncakes. After scratching my head for a while and finally shrugging my shoulders, I showed up to the luncheon with my best attempt at Unitarian Universalist sacred foods, a carafe of coffee, and 3 dozen donuts. Jason mentioned sacraments earlier in the service. Now, from my child's perspective, the frenzied way the adults stormed the donut table as soon as worship let out, well, that was ritual to me. Their constant praise of coffee was as good a sacrament as any. Trying to systematize, to understand UU theology, our culture, our rituals, and our foods can be a confusing project. Especially when the first source of our faith demands we consider our direct experience of wonder and mystery as vital to our faith and our theology. Well, that could lead us almost anywhere. And you'd think as a people we would be more comfortable with mystery by now. But resting in mystery, finding power and even delight in the journey towards understanding, towards knowing, that can be a difficult place for us to live for too long. Intellectually, we would rather affirm that all can be known and understood. Spiritually, at times I think even we yearn for a simpler life where there are more answers than questions. As a teenager, I envied my Southern Baptist and Catholic and Jewish friends, so confident in their knowing, while I was offered this restless spirit, never satisfied. But Unitarian Universalist faith is not a destination, nor a walled garden. It is a doorway. I said our Unitarian Universalist faith, it's not a destination, nor a walled garden. It is a doorway. My colleague, UU minister Reverend Aaron White, preached about a phenomenal story of one woman's journey through uncertainty and the spiritual restlessness she had to face. Have you ever heard of Deborah Searle? Has anyone ever heard of Deborah Searle? This is not rhetorical. Okay, good. Deborah Searle is a modern-day explorer. She's a white British woman who was a competitive athlete and a world adventurer with sponsorships. And in 2002, Deb and her then husband Andrew entered the Ward Evans Atlantic Rowing Challenge. That's a 3,000-mile double-handed rowing race from the Canary Islands of Spain all the way to Barbados. The challenge included building your own plywood boat from a flat-pack kit, kind of like the thing you might get at IKEA. Now, Searle's story is particularly interesting to me because she is a twin, and her twin sister is also her manager for her epic adventures and subsequent speaking engagements. I have twin sons, so I'm always attuned to twin stories. We'll come back to her twin in a minute. At the time of this cross-Atlantic rowing challenge, Searle was a novice rower. In fact, she had never rowed before. And she and her husband trained a few months before the race on the River Thames. This turned out not to be a great testing ground for this race because shortly after embarking on their voyage across the Atlantic, it became clear that Andrew suffered from a debilitating fear of open water. After 7 days of crippling fear, anxiety, illness resulting in severe weight loss, Andrew had to be rescued. And Deborah decided to complete the race alone. All told, she spent 111 days rowing on the open water. As Reverend White points out, in every hero's journey, the hero faces friends and foes alike. Deb found friends in sea turtles and incandescent jellyfish and other incredible wildlife encounters. But unfortunately, her foes were copious. She dealt with sharks. Even some of the turtle encounters threatened her boat's integrity. There were hurricanes trying to kill her and demoralizing trade winds that would swiftly undo 20 miles in a few short hours, setting her back at least 3 days or more. The colossal cross-Atlantic container ships, well, they were simply not looking out for a woman in a rowboat. And they created terrifying waves that threatened to capsize her. And of course, there was the loneliness and the rigorous pace of completing a distance meant for 2 rowers. She had to consume 8,000 calories per day. In order to keep up with the fuel she was expending by rowing, she could only sleep about 20 minutes at a time. After a couple of months of this, well, she was worn down. She didn't want to be out there anymore. She wanted to go home. One morning, she wrote her fear in her diary, and she wrote really honestly that she felt she would not make it, and she was nearing the end of her journey. And these journal entries were all up on her website that her family and her friends and her supporters were following. And so she got a call on her very expensive satellite phone from her twin sister, Haley, who project managed her challenge, and said, "I want you to know, Deb," Haley said, "we saw what you wrote, we all saw it, but we're just not ready to give up on this yet." Deb said, "What do you mean you're not ready?" Her sister said, "Well, it's a team effort, isn't it?" And Deb said, No, doesn't really feel like that. Haley said, "Just tell us the problems. We will help you with the solutions." And Deb says now that since that race, she asks for help so much more now. It's completely changed her life. She's no longer timid or afraid to ask for help. In fact, it's a skill she's honed. And at that particular moment in time, well, she was depressed about missing Christmas because it was just a couple of weeks away. And they said, "Don't worry, we will make Christmas happen for you." And so a big boat came by and dropped a full Christmas care package with decorations and Christmas pudding. And Deb had the most peaceful, non-chaotic, Christ-like Christmas she had ever experienced. They found a way to connect her diary entries to readers from around the world and to link their responses to her satellite phone she had, so she could see everyone's text messages of encouragement to her. And these words, they were free, they cost nothing. Years later, this still challenges Deb to consider her use of her free words. She gets to choose how to use them every day. These words were healing, and they stopped the extreme loneliness and the fear. But even so, near the end, it got really difficult. There was one moment out there in the open water that was just crucial to her ability to continue her journey through the unknown. She made a desperate phone call to her twin sister, feeling terrorized by all of her foes, particularly the enormous container ships creating these waves that nearly capsized her. And her sister said something to her. She said, "You know, Debs, you've just got to change your attitude." Change her attitude? Deb wanted to punch her for saying this. But the more she kept thinking about it, and this is what she had time to do, those 3 words, when it came to it, well, there was nothing else she could change or control. She couldn't control hurricanes, nor container ships, nor being blown back 30 miles. So at breakfast, she would talk to herself. I'm forgetting the name of the movie again, the Tom Hanks movie, Castaway. Much like Castaway, she said it's very accurate, that movie, because she did have a teddy bear that she ended up talking to. And so she would talk to that teddy bear and say, "Choose your attitude." And negative attitudes were not allowed on the boat, so that could not be one of the choices. In her own words, Deb recalls, "I didn't have a choice about experiencing setbacks, but I did have a choice about how I responded to those setbacks. But it wasn't enough, really, to have a motivational phrase. I needed to put it to work. Come on, choose your attitude. Which one will it be today? Today's attitude will be one of, optimism." And then the next bit was to list all the reasons I had to be optimistic. And by the end of the breakfast, I would start to feel quite optimistic. And I believe it made a difference out there. I believe that is what got me through the unknown. Because when it comes to dealing with changes that we will never choose, if we can choose our attitude, then there is real hope to get over some of those hurdles. Now, the last thing Deb used to get her through the pendulum swing of momentum followed by setback, and momentum followed by setback, which, by the way, is the same pendulum of any project that is monumental, that is of worth. Well, the last thing she used to get through was to picture the moment when she would finish the race and see her family. She played the image like a movie imagining the way it would feel to hug each member of her family, the way their faces would smell, the things they would say to each other. During her most hellish moments, she would carefully and with great detail imagine the moment of entering heaven. You understand we are on that boat, right? You understand that? I mean, we are, right at this minute, sitting in open water. Like Deb, we're not totally alone. We can help each other through. We can send messages, speak words of encouragement to one another. And we can picture ourselves landing in that new building when we get there, the morning light streaming through as we walk in on a Sunday, connecting us with holy beauty and abundant space, enough for all of us. And of course, to be an American this week, amongst many weeks, is also to sit in that boat in open water with friends and foes at all sides, wondering when or how we will ever get to that promised land, if we can ever begin to trust in a democracy again, or be led by an administration with a sense of moral humility, or even values. We are in open water, and the pendulum swings. We work hard to push the needle forward, to make efforts towards more humane policies, and then the trade winds push us back, and we are lost at sea once again. It's a good thing we can choose our attitudes for how we will get through this each and every day. It's also a good thing that a long time ago, some people got together and wrote a book just for this sort of thing. Being lost in open waters of spiritual wilderness and suffering the leadership of unjust and inhumane despots. You know, when Moses first encounters God, yes, the Bible, that's the book. When Moses first encounters God in the book of Exodus, and God gives Moses instructions for leading his people out of Egypt, Moses really struggles with spiritual restlessness, with the mystery. And he says, well, first, why don't you tell me what your name is? And God says, you want to know my name? I am what I am. My name is I am. Or, as the Hebrew translation, I am what is becoming. I am what was, is, and will be. I am what I am, Moses. Now let us go forth from Egypt. And when Moses gets to the water's edge, the way this moment has been interpreted in the rabbinical tradition is not that the river parted all at once as it did for Charlton Heston, but that the water parted only as far as Moses was willing to step. Took a step, and then it's uncertain. He took another step, and it was uncertain. He took another step, and it's uncertain, and so on, and so forth, until they reach the other side. This is how life can feel. Collectively, this is how it is to be feeling our way into our congregation's future, into our nation's future. This is how we find ourselves living now. And like Reverend Aaron White, I know that when life has felt the most mysterious and confusing, and I have felt that restlessness of spirit, knowing that there was somewhere I ought to be, but I didn't know how to get there, often the waters have parted one step at a time at best. Now, I thought that in preparation for this sermon that I would be talking about Buddhism and exploring Buddhism. However, after reading a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chodron, other Buddhist thinkers, I think I figured out why I'm not a Buddhist, why it wasn't working for me to get us through spiritual restlessness. It's because I do not have much stake in individual enlightenment. See, I believe in collective enlightenment. In that way, I am like the shepherd, overly worried about you and every lost sheep. This is why if I haven't seen you in church lately, I miss you. This is why in the realm of social justice, I believe that without equal interchange, without true solidarity, we are doing more harm than good when we act out of paternalism and even charity. With the goal of solidarity, our action and our service become authentically interconnected because my salvation is tied up with your salvation. And our destiny is one shared destiny. So no, I do not trust in personal enlightenment. I mean, you should probably work on that also. But if we are to choose our attitude each day, sitting in open water in the same boat, and we are going to make that choice both individually and collectively. Now, we have spoken before in this worship series about the power of liminal space. That's the space in between. Sitting in the in-between space offers tremendous power to us. Anthropologist Victor Turner explored liminality in his seminal work, The Ritual Process, developing the phenomenon of communitas. I want to talk about communitas for 1 minute. Communitas refers to a collective experience that becomes possible when a whole group of people cross a threshold and together enter liminal time and space, an in-between time that is neither past nor present, and a space that is neither here nor there. And in this threshold space, they experience a special bond, and it is not like any bond they experience in their ordinary, structured lives. Victor Turner describes what is sought in communitas. It is not effortless companionship that can arise between friends, coworkers, any day. What they seek is a transformative experience that goes to the root of each person's being and finds in that root something profoundly communal and shared. Reverend Tina Kanzler-Clark reminds us communitas is not the same as community. Communitas is a process where no one is marginalized because everyone is on the margin. So communitas is not simply social interaction. It is not simply belonging to a group. It is a social and a soulful connection. And that's where we find ourselves now. To liberate our dreams and traverse the open seas of our life and our congregation's life, we will need to gather our spiritual resources. And so we can look to Deborah Searle's journey to help us navigate. First, we must choose our attitude for how we will approach each day. Next, we must reach out, ask each other for help when we need it, and there we will find more abundance than we thought possible. And finally, we must envision our moment of arrival, painting a picture in our minds so clear we can touch it. There's a saying amongst clergy that it is easier to describe the features of hell than the kingdom of heaven. And so we look to the poets and the artists and the musicians to help us with our description. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then we will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then we will all care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then we will all live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
Our final hymn this morning is When the Spirit Says Do. It's big singing. Dig deep. Please rise in body or in spirit. Got to do when the Spirit says do. got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you've got to sing. Oh Lord, you've got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You've got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to shout when the Spirit says shout. When the Spirit says shout, you've got to shout. Oh Lord, you've got to shout when the Spirit says shout. You got to do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. You got to do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, you got to do when the Spirit says do. Spirit says do.
Won't you please join hands for our benediction? My 5-year-old, very Unitarian Universalist niece used to say, "When you got to eat cookies when the Spirit says eat cookies." She's right about that too. As we go forth, let us remember the Spirit we have found here that calls us to choose our attitude, to choose our words each day. May they be holy. May they be powerful and send goodness in the world that desperately needs it. May we ask for help and find abundance there in the asking and the receiving. And may we paint a picture together of a world, the world of our imagination, where all are loved, where all have worth and dignity, where all are welcome. And as we make that world a reality with every one of our actions, as the week begins, go now in peace, go in love and hope, and let it begin with you in the social hall, talking to someone who's a visitor here today. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.